Hello, good morning, and it's Jennifer Lynch here, and I have with me an amazing guy called Lickorish, who is talking about a holistic approach to health. And Lee, can you let people know what you do? That'd be wonderful.
Good morning, Jennifer. Hi. Yes, I'd like to share today the idea of holistic health and that approach to it. It's a really interesting subject. Well, I find it interesting anyway.
It's interesting.
It's the holistic way is treating the person as a whole. So all aspects of life is accredited to health. So it's not just exactly what you consume, as in like your food and your drink. It's food and drink, exercise, relationships. Your environment, that's both inner environment and outer environment, your immediate environment. As well as things like your life purpose, spirituality, and certainly sleep and rest. So it's looking at it from all of those perspectives at the same time. And if you just look at one perspective or come from one angle, let's say just on the nutritional side, you can get a good effect, but that's all you get. You don't get a sustainable effect in life. You might pick up your health for a little bit and then it will wane back down again. So the idea is not to. It's like allopathic medicine or natural medicine, or what you call allopathic medicine is today's medicine, the modern idea of medicine, where they treat the symptoms of what you have and they try and get rid of the symptoms. Where holistic idea is to look at the symptom as being communication between yourself and your body. So if a person is expressing a symptom of something, then you look at that and say, okay, that's my body telling me that something's out of balance, and then going from there, as opposed to trying to focus on the symptom and get rid of the symptom. You focus on what's causing the symptom. So, and usually with it, the body itself is always trying to balance itself. That's a constant thing, that we don't have to try to do this. We don't have to think about it. It's a natural thing that the body does. It has its own sort of intelligence where it's striving for balance. It's striving to replenish itself. It's striving to, constantly replacing cells, constantly replacing, over a period of time, everything gets replaced. So I think the heart takes the longest. It's about a 7-year period it takes to replace the heart from start to finish. So 7 years ago, you had a completely different heart to what you have now. So you can go from having quite a dodgy heart, but if you can give the body everything it needs to repair it and everything it needs to rebuild, then you can literally rebuild a complete new body. So that's looking at holistic. The holistic way is not just once again is looking from all these different perspectives, and they're all really valid when you go from the take and doing this is quite a large thing. It's a kind of life-changing. So it takes it doesn't take, you can't do it in 5 minutes. You can't say, oh, well, I'll just change this, and, it's something that has to be done and needs to be sustainable. And to be able to do that, it has to be done in small steps. And, I mentioned to you once before about being gentle with the body and doing, not being so harsh. So introducing things in a step-by-step basis, and then what happens is then it gets more embedded, as opposed to sort of, let's say, a fad diet, going onto a diet and crashing on a diet and hitting it hard, and that happens for a while and you get a good effect, and then slowly but surely them old patterns creep in. A little bit of bread here, a little bit of alcohol there, a little bit of sugar here, a bit of chocolate there, and before you know it, you're back where you started. And that's what we kind of call the yo-yo effect. So doing it in a holistic approach, in a structured way, you can negate this yo-yo effect, this spring back to where you was. And a lot of times people spring back to a place where they spring back even to a worse state than they was in the first place, and it's demoralizing. So it's it can be really harsh to hit the body with these really harsh regimes and then spring back, because it not only sort of does it put strain on your body both ways on the regime while you're doing it, and the spring back as well, but it also takes toll on the psyche, on the mind, on the state of being, because then you feel bad that, cool, I was doing so well, and then I'm back, you're sort of down on yourself because you kind of let things lax and everything else. So it has a whole effect. So it's quite an interesting thing. And there's so looking at it from all these different perspectives, looking at your food, your exercise, your rest and your sleep, relationships, these are really important factors of the whole thing.
Yeah, I've got some questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, great. You fire them away.
Right, okay. So, number one, I've never been on a diet, which is quite interesting because I've sort of observed what happened to other people with the yo-yo effect and thought, nah, won't do it that way. I'll go and I'll jog or I'll stretch or do something like that. And I'll just, by saying I wouldn't go on a diet, I would just start to cut certain foods out and generally I would lose some weight. But obviously, as women get older, they've got other things going on, which I do believe the metabolism might alter a little bit as well. Because when I was young, I used to have a really, really fast metabolism. I was like starving by 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning sort of thing. I felt like I burnt all my food up and I was quite skinny. But I was actually thinking the other day about how, every 10 years, I suppose, I seem to have gained a stone in weight. So although I'm not horrendously upset about my weight, I mean, I'm weighing about 12 stone now. 10 years ago, I weighed 11 stone and then 10 stone, what have you. And I haven't weighed 9.5 stone since, like the 80s or something like that. And I think people do often sort of settle for it as well, because, it's like when you're in your 50s, and I'm like 58 now, well, I've just had my 58th birthday, I've only just become 58. People sort of say, oh, well, you're not bad for your age, you don't look bad. There's people a lot fatter than you. But right, that isn't sort of what you want, is it? You don't have to settle for the not bad in inverted commas. It's sort of like how I feel about me. And I have lost at Christmas time. I went to 13 stone. When I hit 13 stone, which is a stone, well, it was 12.5, so I was like half a stone heavier than I had been. I'm like, that is it. That is absolutely it. And I'm going out jogging, I'm watching my food a bit better. I didn't stop chocolate, I didn't stop alcohol, I didn't stop some treats, but I am now 12. So I've lost a stone since Christmas, which I'm quite happy about. But then I'm still leveled off at a weight I don't want to be. So what do you think about people sort of accepting? There's a sort of like an acceptance for people over 50. Do you think that?
I think that's true in the general in the general populace. Is that you got this old term 3 school years in 10, which is like 70 years. So, you know, the average lifetime is 70 years. So you're kind of coming up for that, and you're going to sort of coming towards that, and you're going to start sort of slowing down and getting ill, and that's kind of an accepted thing, but that doesn't have to be. And I think one of the biggest things is because we live in such a toxic environment, as in, you know, the world in general. There's toxicity all over the place, within the food, the water, the air, within our materials that we use in the home. You know, just things like washing up liquids and things like that. It's in soaps and cosmetics and all of these things. There's quite a heavy load. Now, the more toxins that go into the body, the slower everything gets, the more it gets blocked, the slower the system works, the less the body can detoxify these things. And some of the things that are in our environment, the body can't detoxify naturally. For instance, aluminium. Now, aluminium is a thing that should not be in our bodies as such. Yet, for instance, in deodorant sprays, aluminium is one of the ingredients, and it goes and blocks the pores and gets into the body itself. So anything that goes on the skin, within a really short space of time, within less than like 30 seconds, it starts entering the bloodstream. So this is really interesting. So you can imagine what your skin touches on a day-to-day basis. You know, all the different creams, all the different the chemicals, from washing up to cleaning the sinks to what, you know, when there's all of these things that are going into the body. And as well as, like, in the food, you have chemicals in the food. Sort of one of the worst chemicals is glyphosate, Roundup, which is the pesticide that they spray on in industry on a lot of the crops. And that's a really biggie, because these chemicals accumulate in the body over a period of time. So you get a buildup of these things. And one of the worst things about that is, before glyphosate was, which is the main component in Roundup, before glyphosate what was a pesticide, they patented this product as a chelate of minerals. So they already knew that this product would draw minerals out of the body. So, and if you draw minerals out of the body, what happens is the nutrients that you get from your food can't be utilized, can't be sort of metabolized properly. So you get issues with you get, you know, sort of malnutrition. And this is one of the biggest things, is not only have we got a toxic load, that we've also got like malnutrition within our society. And when we talk about sort of weight gain, a lot of weight gain, when studies were done about obesity, and these were studies that were done in the United States, and they found that obesity was generally down to malnutrition. It wasn't down to huge amounts of fat or huge amounts of sugar. It was, you know, obviously those things don't help, but it's down to sort of, you know, the body needing the right types of foods. So when it did get any types of foods, what it would do would store it, because the body's realizing, like, we're in a place that's starving us. We need certain types, you know, and so the body stores it as fat for a rainy day, you could say, and this is because of this lack of good quality food. So and as well, you know, not just the within the soil, the soil's depleted of like minerals that's needed to uptake into the plant. So even if you're eating like sort of vegetables and it's like supermarket vegetables, or whatever, that's actually depleted. They're not as good as they used to be. Nowhere near. So
yeah,
I
and that's
think
because
all
of
of that.
over farming, isn't it?
Yes.
That's
So
over farming, yeah.
Indeed. So I think all of that's added together. It puts a real toll on the body. See, the science is out there that we could potentially live quite a long time, and because the body keeps replenishing itself. But there's so much pulling on it that each year goes by, and if we don't do what eat the foods certain foods will detoxify. So what I look at this, I like the term "eat to live, eat to die." I mean, you can do either one, and it's knowing the difference between the two. So certain foods will take things out of the body and detoxify the body, and certain foods will toxify the body. Certain foods will create acid within the body, and certain foods will alkalize the body. So it's knowing the difference between those and striking a balance. Now, we hear about the pH, or the alkalinity of the body, and we kind of look at what is that? I mean, what is pH? And if you ask most people, so can define what pH is, and it's a really hard one to define, but pH is a measurement of voltage, literally of voltage in a liquid. So that is a pH level. So once you get so here's the thing: is each cell of a human body, its operating level is around about 25, 26 millivolts. That's its standard. When everything's going well, everything's great. Now, if that voltage drops down, let's say for toxicity reasons or nutritional reasons, or a person's just ill, the person's got a virus or whatever, you could say, what happens is the pH goes acidic, and that means the voltage is going down. And so that there straight away, if a person's voltage is down within their body, then they're unable to fight off, or their immune system is then depleted of being able to fight off the invaders or fight off whatever. Okay, so for a person to get healthy, they need to up that millivoltage, up that voltage from on a standard of 25, 26 millivolts up to 50, 60 millivolts, which is a lot higher. It's kind of double to be able to get well. Yeah, exactly.
Wow,
it's like, wow,
that's a big increase, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And this is the thing is, as we get older, we get more toxic load within our body. So we get a higher, the more of the toxic load, the less energy each cell has. So that the voltage gets lower and lower and lower and lower. And so when illness comes along, then we're unable, at a certain point, we're unable to fight it. So then we have like what we call chronic disease. You get sort of different diseases here and there and everywhere. And different people express this in different types of diseases. It affects different people in different ways. But it's pretty much all down to the voltage. And so when you hear this term raising the vibration, what that really raising voltage within the body. And that's getting from the acidic foods, getting away from the high sugar, high carb foods, and going to the alkaline foods and raising that voltage up. So the more alkaline foods you have, the higher the voltage.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so maybe it'd be useful to talk about what you consider alkaline. I mean, is natural yogurt alkaline?
The alkaline foods, I would say, to see the dairy is an interesting subject, because dairy products, they create mucus.
Yeah.
And if mucus is being created in the body, then that's the mucus is being created as an immune response. So if to get the body at a higher level, we are designed to eat greens. I mean, that's what our body is designed to eat. It's literally designed to eat. We cannot live with greens. I mean, I think there was a time when there was a group of people, they went off onto an island and they lived on rabbit and they all died. And they had said they had plenty of rabbit to eat, but they never had any greens.
Oh dear. Right.
So you've got to have those greens.
Yeah.
We can't survive without them. That's like really important. And we can for a while, but eventually we will sort of deplete our energy, because our energy reserves rely on the properties that are in the greens. So that's a really important thing. So the alkalinity comes from eating more greens, you know, and the acidic comes from eating more sort of things like carbs. So if you eat a lot of potatoes, that's going to be acidic. If you eat a lot of meat, that's going to be acidic. If you drink alcohol, that's going to be acidic. If it's sugar, that's going to be acidic. You know, so really high, or you could say poor quality carbohydrates are not the way. You know, a lot of bread, a lot of pasta. You know, they're sort of what we call empty carbs, where you got things like, if you got carbohydrates in, say, broccoli, and that was to be a complex carb. So if you're going to have a certain amount of carbs within your diet, or within your sort of your foods, you're going to be wanting the complex carbohydrates as opposed to an empty carbohydrate. You know, and it's there is particular regimes and diets that completely cut out carbs, like, you know, put a person into what they call ketosis. That too can, you know, that has its benefits and uses as a tool, but I think for an everyday living, I don't think that's a great idea, because that's quite harsh. Again, it's being very harsh with the body, and that as well can put the body under a certain amount of stress. So I think it's finding that balance between all of those things, and finding the right balance for each individual. And this is the thing, you can't just write up a diet sheet and say, all right, eat this food, and it all will be good, because each person's an individual and their body acts differently. So it's got to be done in stages, and quite gently as well, and almost like try this and test it. And then if that doesn't work for you, take it out and try this, and take it out and try, and find your way through. Is that a...
Yeah, I mean, I went on a radical diet before in the 80s to eliminate candida. I'd been to see a homeopath, and she gave me some homeopathic remedies as well. And it was about eating raw. And I've got the book, the old book, Raw Energy, that's been around for years. I sort of know about the benefits of eating raw, but to go from eating cooked to everything raw, my stomach just couldn't cope. I mean, it was literally cramping up, you know, all the time, because just couldn't cope with the amount of raw food. But I did stick with it, and I lost so much weight. Weight was dropping off left, right and centre. I became very skinny, but despite how skinny I was, I had absolutely loads of energy, because obviously I was getting more nutrients. But I literally went for the first 2 or 3 weeks with horrendous stomach cramps, you know, and I think maybe that was just too harsh. You know, it was just too much too quickly, really.
Yeah.
So,
oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting that that's what I'm, you know, sort of that transition over is an extremely harsh on the body, and to do things really gently and transition into these things, as opposed to saying, right, this is what I'm doing. You know, because the mind wants to go, all right, this is what I want to do, but the body needs to kind of catch up. And I mean, we are actually adapted very well to eating raw food, a lot better than eating cooked food. I mean, interesting enough, we digest raw food easier than we digest cooked food. And you would think, oh, well, how can that be? Because it puts the food down. But there's enzymes within the raw food that get wiped out when in the cooking process, and they're designed. They're there to help break down the fiber within the food. And so once we sort of eat that food in its entirety, there's loads of benefits for eating in raw food. But again, we're so used to eating cooked food, the transition needs to be done really gently. You know.
And what about steaming, Lee? You know, you preserve a bit more steaming food, don't you? Steaming vegetables.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, lightly steaming food. I mean, here's the thing: is that certain foods they're difficult to eat if you don't cook them. So steaming them until they're, edible, is a great idea. I mean, I prefer to steam vegetables as to boil them, because it holds the nutrients. You can taste the salts and within the vegetables more. You don't really need to salt your vegetables once you steam them, because you have all that taste that doesn't come out into the water, kind of thing. I mean, I don't know whether if you ever boil sort of greens.
No, I don't. I steam everything now because I sort of know about that. But I've also thought, well, there's no point in putting salt on when you're steaming it, because it's not going to it would just sit on top of the vegetable. Do you know what I mean? Rather than in the water, salt would dissolve. So if I steam in vegetables, I don't add any salt to it, but it does taste so much better, when they're steamed. Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, it's kind of steaming definitely has its benefits. I mean, I was going to say that when they used to boil at one time, used to drink the greens water, and get the benefit from there. But that was a while ago.
But you can put that in gravy, can't you? Not that gravy is probably very good for you because it's full of chemicals. But if you were making a gravy, I always used to use vegetable water rather than tip it down the sink. Yeah. I mean, sugar is the thing, but also I believe that my body originally got into that state because I lived off antibiotics when I was a young child.
Right, yeah.
Through chest infections and bronchitis from the age of 4. So most of my early school life was spent, in bed ill with bronchitis. So I just antibiotic after antibiotic, like there was hardly any breaks from them. And then somebody said to me, I think it was like when I was in my 30s, that, antibiotics can be in your body for like 30 years or something, I don't know, or 20 odd years. It takes years and years and years to rid the effects of antibiotics. I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, there is negative effects, shown by science of antibiotics, and one of them is they can destroy the gut bacteria. And that's a really important one, because if your gut bacteria is not functioning properly, I mean, the gut, you could say, call it the cauldron, and you put all your ingredients in the cauldron, and then you get this digestion happening, and then from there it's processed through the system, through the rest of the body, and feeds the rest of the body. Now, if that's not functioning well, because the bacteria has been killed by antibiotics, because antibiotic is anti-life, biotic is life, and that literally is a poison. It goes in and kills it. They're using different methods to kill certain things within the body, and unfortunately it kills the good stuff as well. So it's important, if you have had antibiotics, to replenish that gut bacteria the best ways possible. And one of those ways is to have fermented foods. Sort of kimchi is a good one. Sauerkraut is another. Also taking foods like prebiotics. And prebiotics, as opposed to probiotics, but prebiotics is food that we can't digest properly, but our bacteria can digest it. So prebiotic food is a really important one to take. So what you're doing is you're creating the right environment for the bacteria that are there to thrive. So things like asparagus is a good prebiotic. Garlic is a prebiotic. There's quite a few different foods. You just take a quick Google search to find out, which is which. But here's the thing: it's about the environment. It's creating that environment for a healthy lifestyle, and that's both within your own environment in the house. Like removing the things that are toxic. For instance, one of the things that's really toxic in the house, and people are surprised when I say this, is your clothes. For washing your clothes, you put your clothes in the washing machine and you pour in this stuff, and it smells nice when they come out. But that smell is what they call a volatile organic compound, and they don't call it volatile for no good reason. It's really toxic to the body. So, changing that for something like Ecova, a product like that where it's a bit cleaner. There's not so many volatile organic compounds or any within these products, and systematically going through all of the things you use within your environment and removing them and replacing them. It doesn't mean you've got to do without, it just means you've got to replace it, you've got to up your game. So it's up in your game not only with your food, but up in your game with the products you use on a day-to-day basis. And going through the house, going through your cupboards and doing the same there. And this is what I say within the food, it doesn't mean you got to cut all sweet stuff. It just means you need to up the game a little bit. You instead of having chocolate that's with sugar, you have chocolate that has a different type of sweetener. And I don't mean an artificial sweetener like the saccharides or all these different ones. They're not healthy at all for the body. I'm talking about natural sweeteners. Is that making sense?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have currently got a lodger that goes around cleaning my bathroom with Mr. Muscle, which wasn't too pleased about. And actually, rather than upset her, I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe before I used my bath and my sink, I could squirt it around with something else to get rid of it, because it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think that more like she's programmed into thinking that that's it, that will kill everything, especially because of the COVID worries. But I myself did stop at one stage also using washing powders and use these natural plastic balls that were meant to wash, that had something in them that's completely natural, and you reuse them again and again. I didn't keep it up. I think it's keeping it up as well, because sometimes we have good intentions, and then after a while you just sort of get into the habit of going to the supermarket and grabbing your stuff or grabbing your washing up liquid. And actually, now you're mentioning that, I remember that I was muscle tested because Sam did the kinesiology thing, with me as various. I'm allergic to washing up liquids, so I shouldn't even be using that. There are certain chemicals that that I suppose the body is really reacting to. So I could certainly go into my cupboards and take a look at that again, the Ecova and the washing up liquid and stuff like that, because I stopped doing that. And most people stop doing it because they think, oh, look at the cost of that. but there isn't a price on your health, is there, if you think about it, you know. The same with the plugins, you know, people said to me, oh, you know, you need to get those plugins. And I had one of the aromatherapy ones for a little while. But then I don't have them anymore because I just like thought, well, no, they're not good for me. And I was more worried about the dog as well, because they're not meant to be good for animals either. So it's open windows time, really. I think people get lazy, and I admit I've been lazy as well. So there we go. You can, when you're living with other people as well, you can be influenced in the way as, you know, you don't want to upset them. But when I saw her coming with the Mr. Muscle, I thought, oh my God, you know, not good really on a daily basis. I mean, I suppose if you put a scarf around your mouth and cleaned your oven with it once a year or twice a year, it would be different to actually using something on a daily basis. Which, what do you think about that? I mean, the oven sprays are toxic as hell, aren't they? You know.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, is about the frequency. You know, is cutting down the frequency, and where possible, I mean, we kind of got to pick our battles, you know, because we can't do everything. So we pick like our battles and pick the important ones that make the biggest effect. So, for instance, the washing up liquid, something we do on a day-to-day basis is get our hands and in washing up water and clean the dishes, clean the pots and pans. That to me is a really important one, because that's something like every day I would be conscious that I'm my skin is absorbing the chemicals in that washing up liquid. So getting a clean liquid, you know, a chemical-free liquid is really important. You know, your daily food that you put in your mouth. I mean, what the biggest thing that you know we kind of we kind of do, you know, or the closest we get to anything industry-wise is inside us, and that's like a really big thing. You know, I mean, you don't want anyone to touch you at the minute, but we would allow some industry, some company that we don't know to cook our food, and then we go and put that inside our bodies. Yeah. But we don't know these people. We don't know what their ethics are. We don't know what their hygiene standards are. We just don't. But yet we allow that product to go inside our bodies. So that to me is a really big one as well. It is who cooks the food, where the food comes from that they're cooking. You know, so if they're cooking sort of food industry sort of grown food, it's full of chemicals. If they're cooking that food with tap water, it's full of chemicals. So you kind of the health really starts where your food grows. That's in, you know, in that respect of food. And so it's really.
Lee, I just want to mention about organic. Like, you know, would you really favour organic food now, organic vegetables, in opposed to supermarket vegetables? I mean, is there a significant difference?
There's a significant difference between organic and non-organic. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the glyphosate that they use in industry, and that's in you know a lot of the farms, especially on sort of wheat, you know, which is in the breads and the pastas and everything else. They use like glyphosate in with oats. And they use glyphosate. I think those type of things, if you're going to utilize them products, it is definitely have organic. Simply because, you know, it's if you're taking that into your body, then you, as I mentioned earlier, you're preventing the nutrients from entering the cell. Yeah. Because what it's doing, it's drawing the minerals out of the body, which is, you know, it's a mineral chelate. So it pulls the minerals out of the body. Excuse me. And that itself is really important. Now, also with the standard way of farming, the modern way of farming, you could say, the soil gets depleted so much. So what they're doing, they're chemically feeding the soil. They're chemically replenishing the soil to make the plants grow. Well, so it's a real complex system which has been destroyed by sort of modern agriculture. So where you get your vegetables, from is really important. Now, there's a massive difference between going to a local organic farm and going to the supermarket and getting organics. There's between those two, they're different. There's different as a cow and a pig. There's see a lot of the organic ones that come from the, sort of, if you go to the supermarket, a lot of the organics, instead of coming from, they come from these huge polytunnels, but they're grown in a very unnatural environment, and still you've got a lack of the right kind of minerals within the soil. So getting from an organic farm who does sort of biodynamic methods of growing is a huge difference, but still better. Still, organics from the supermarkets is better than non-organics from the supermarket.
Yeah,
so
get it.
You're picking your battles there. If that's all you can get hold of at the time, get that. And if it's all you can get hold of is non-organic vegetables, don't stop eating vegetables because they're non-organic. No. Eat the vegetables. Yeah. Don't wait for everything to be perfect until you kind of take action. That's a really important point.
Yeah. Okay. So Lee, thank you very much. I think that we covered quite a lot today, so I think maybe we can carry on and do maybe another episode soon for a part 2. That's fantastic. Thank you, Lee Lickorish, for all your wonderful advice. And it's been fantastic. I've certainly learned a lot.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Ben. Bye.
Bye-bye.